Great trial lawyers are made, not born. Welcome to Verdict Academy, preserving trial wisdom for trial lawyers. Join host Kevin Morrison, trial attorney in San Francisco, as he recreates those invaluable hallway conversations that remote work has made rare. Candid insights and hard-won lessons from America's most accomplished trial lawyers. Produced and powered by LawPods.
Welcome to another episode of Verdict Academy, where we bring you the best trial lawyers in the country who share with you their top 3 pointers in 30 minutes. And when I say we bring you the best in the country, I mean it. Our guest today is Karen Burgess of Burgess Law in Austin. She's a commercial trial attorney. She tries cases ranging from trademark infringement to partnership disputes and every other kind of commercial case. Karen is at the pinnacle of our profession. How do we know that? Well, she's a member of what I call the Big Four invitation-only organizations: ABOTA, the International Academy of Trial Lawyers, the American College of Trial Lawyers, and the International Society of Barristers. And Karen is not only a member, but a leader. She's the immediate past president of the Academy and has served ABOTA as its national treasurer and as president of the Austin chapter. Karen was raised in Waco, Texas, and graduated from Rice University in 3 years, and then graduated from UT Austin Law, where she met her wonderful husband, Brian. Go Horns. Right? Horns, did I say that right?
Yeah, hook 'em.
Hook 'em. Karen founded Burgess Law in Austin in 2018, where she manages the trial boutique, which limits its cases, and they're all exquisitely worked up for trial. We'd be here all day talking about Karen's impressive trial results, but perhaps what is most impressive is that she had the guts to sing to a jury in closing argument. As accomplished a trial attorney as she is, Karen is an incredibly approachable, kind, and real person. Karen Burgess, welcome to Verdict Academy.
Well, I thank you. I am not an accomplished singer. I can tell you that for sure. For sure.
But she had the guts to do it.
And I might do it today, We're talking about closing, so you never know.
Karen, what drew you to become a courtroom trial attorney as opposed to, any other kind of lawyer?
Well, I was one of those speech and debate kids, and I knew one lawyer. My mom knew one lawyer, and she was very glamorous. I didn't realize that might have been because she didn't have kids. So she had a fancy car and went on vacation. So I thought that sounded, I didn't rule out lawyer from that experience. But then when I still have no idea what she did as a lawyer, but when I was in high school, generous lawyers from the community, we didn't know them before, but they came in and they taught our mock trial classes and they coached our team to great heights within the Waco community and beyond. And they were just so generous. I still use their tips today in trial. They were really good trial lawyers, and they were really generous with their time. And then
This is in high school mock trial you're talking about.
High school mock trial. So when you get that invitation and you think, gosh, I've just got one more thing to do on my list today, you might be really inspiring someone to do this and then maybe to serve others as well. But so they did that, and then I went to law school knowing I wanted to be a trial lawyer, but really a lot of people go to law school thinking that they're going to be trial lawyers, especially women. And even when you and I went to school, it was 50-50 women. And you don't see that we were calling the Big Four. You see 10 to 20, 25 max % women in those groups.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I think, because they don't get that early trial experience. And then once you get into having kids, you're right in that really grind of discovery and whatnot. But I went to work for some guys who had just broken off from a national firm and broken up with a national firm. But they were desperate, and they had 3 trials on the docket in the next 6 months. And I tried those 3 cases second chair to juries right off the bat and really, really got hooked. And so even when things got dark, when we had 2 littles at home, we powered through it. So
It's incredible. I know one of the things we're going to talk about is kind of balance and logistics and that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to point this out in your introduction, but trial law is a grind, right? I mean, it's the best thing. It's the most exciting thing, but it's a grind for anybody. And for women, it's doubly hard. There's a double standard. You guys are held to a almost impossible standard. If you choose to have a family, for whatever reason, the wife tends to get more, or the mother tends to get more of the household stuff with the kids. It's just kind of how it is. I know partners. I know Brian is an incredible partner. I know he shares responsibilities with you, but it is really hard to be a woman trial attorney.
you have to really get the you have to decide that you're not going to be on the board of the school and also bring the cupcakes to every single thing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how you have to or you can decide, no, I want to bring the cupcakes, so I'm going to not do this other thing. But yeah,
Yep.
it's a hard choice, and hopefully you're going to make it in partnership with your partner or the other loved ones around you that are creating the village around your kids.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about it in a little bit. So let's get to the three things that any trial lawyer needs to know. My understanding, Karen, we're going to talk about one, closing argument, two, direct examination, and then third topic is, love, logistics, and the law, kind of what we just talked about a little bit, I think. Is that generally right?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Let's talk about closing argument. What advice do you want to impart on our audience about closing?
It's so fun. Like all this other work, all this grind, all those early mornings and late nights and everything, it's all worth it when you get to connect with a jury. These are real people who are making decisions about our disputes. And, when we talk to people, you're talking about the International Academy, when we talk to foreign lawyers and journalists, they're shocked when we take them to a courtroom and they see that these ordinary people are making determinations about gigantic, life-changing, company killing, company saving decisions. And it is really that grand experiment that and you get to be part of it from the beginning. You get to be part of it even if you're sitting fifth chair and and doing the research. You're still part of it, but it's really exciting when you get to talk to them in closing because it's so direct. And the so I have a formula for a closing, and I talk about it to people, and I say, if I'm ever opposite you in a case, you know what I'm going to do on closing. You don't have to guess. I'm telling you now. I'm going to do it the same way every single time until somebody really convinces me of something else. And so you start with a theme. Themes, that's its whole own topic. I hope somebody either has or will speak on themes, but how you're going to get your theme. And you referenced the case where I sang, and so I'll give that one as an example, which was Lukenbach, Texas. And so the song, like, I'm going to Lukenbach, Texas with Willie and Waylon and the
I'm
boys.
sorry, I don't. I
You
don't know that song. I'm
Kevin
sorry.
Morrison.
I know. I'm so bad. Sorry.
We need to get you to Texas and spend some time working on you. But okay, so others in your audience hopefully will
Hopefully,
know that
yes.
song, but it's from the 70s. It was like the birth of outlaw country. Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Jerry Jeff Walker, they're my client, and they have a trademark. It was an old German community, but it was also it's a music venue. It's a trademarked music venue. These hippie cowboy poets back in the 70s actually trademarked the stuff somehow or another, or knew someone who knew how to do that, and they did. And so
Kind of like
generationally,
the Grand Ole Opry situation, or what? Tell me, it's a town, but it's a music venue. Just explain what it
it's
is.
not, it was not, it's an unincorporated municipality.
Okay.
So it was a German community that they
Okay.
called Lukenbach because that was somebody's last name who owned the little post office, but there never was a town. And so it is a defense to trademark to be a geographic location, but it's much harder to get that defense once that trademark has become has solidified as a trademark. And this one had been on the records for so long that it had solidified. So it was a higher burden for the defense to get around than it would have been if we didn't have those strong trademarks. But there are all these liquor billionaires in Texas, like his name is literally Tito Beveridge. So Tito's comes from Austin, and he's a great corporate citizen. He's now sold, but he's a great citizen of Austin. Patron is owned by an Austinite. So all these liquor billionaires. And so when there's liquor billionaires, there's liquor promoters. So this liquor promoter goes to Luckenbach and says, I've got this, $100 million, I don't know how much $1 million idea to do Luckenbach whiskey. They talk to him for a little while, and they look into it, and they see his past business practices, and they decide to pass. And they say, they literally write an email that says, much obliged, sir, but no thank you. So that's one of the emails. But so anyway, he props up this other guy. There's two cases. He props up this other lodge owner who's calling it Luckenbach, who had agreed to change it, but puts his case to trial with his lawyer, with the same lawyers as the promoter first, because he thinks that's going to be more sympathetic. And there's a whole write-up in Texas Monthly about this, but he puts this case up first, but we're really going to try Skloss. The promoter is who we're targeting. And so our theme there was, this is all to get to, what the theme was, he took what he couldn't buy. So he came to us, he asked to buy it. We said no. So he just starts it on his own and takes what he can't buy. So that's the fun part, singing to them about who we are, talking about the theme of he took, you always want to use the protagonist first. He took what he couldn't buy. And it's all of this legend and lore that's, in the hearts of a lot of Texans. But, the younger jurors didn't know Luckenbach. They came from wherever. They might have gone to UT and they stayed or whatever. But by the time we're to this point in the trial at closing, they all know Luckenbach and they've heard from these country legends and whatnot. So then, so we get to do that fun part. Then comes the less sexy part, which is what I call the charge sandwiches. And I actually tell the jury, I am now making charge sandwiches, because part of this is, a long time ago, I figured out I can't be like super smooth like Kevin Morrison or like the big gigantic Texas trial lawyer, but I can be the trusted source, right? So I'm trying to be the teacher, and I used to think about being a reporter, but now nobody trusts half. I guess everyone trusts half of them or something like that, or 1/3 of them. but what you do is you probably already do this, but you take the charge and you might get it very late.
We call them jury instructions, but you call them
Okay.
charges, but same deal. Yep.
Right.
Go ahead.
And we call the instructions the part within the question, but we call the charge the questions. But
the verdict form. The question.
The verdict form.
Got it. Okay.
So
just want to make sure I understand.
Combined for us. And we kind of call the whole thing the charge.
Got it.
But so, as you might, depending on what court you're in, you might not get the final till 9:00 at night, that night before you're going to be giving the closing. But you have an idea of it. It really motivates you to get going on the charge early. But what I do is I use slides, so it will be a late night, but you have a lot of help. Here's question number one. Here's, maybe you've already talked about burden, and then question number one, and helpful instructions. Highlight the words in that question that you want them to think about, maybe even dissect the sentence if it's complicated. And then do 3 to 5 pieces of evidence and testimony that support the answer you want. And then go back to the question and put the answer. So I call it a charge sandwich, but it's really an evidence sandwich. So it's charge is the bread. You have the charge question, you have the evidence, you have the charge answer. And you write it in, like either you write it in or you have your slide write it in. And it's especially if you're the plaintiff, and especially when you're talking about money. And so then the reason is you want to arm those advocates for you in the jury room, and you have to tell them the answer. And if you don't have, so we use documents, things like for actual confusion of a trademark, social media is great, emails, contracts, highlighted, and they've all seen this evidence throughout the trial. And then we charts. If you've drawn flip charts, I love using multimedia, different kinds of ways of relating to them. Make sure you take a picture of them so you can use them,
Yeah,
those demonstratives in that
exactly.
slideshow. And then answer the charge sandwich, go back to theme. And then if you're lucky enough to be the plaintiff in giving a closing, end with obviously a question to the defense that's going to be very hard for them to answer. If you're on the defense side, then either answer the question at some point, not at the beginning, don't take the bait, usually don't take the bait unless you really need to, or recast it as them trying to change what's important here. And then when you get to come back up there, that's the really fun part.
So
Usually,
you get rebuttal in Texas.
do you not get it in
Yeah,
California?
we do, but
Okay.
every jurisdiction is different. Yep. Yeah, we
Okay.
do. Yep.
So yeah, when you get rebuttal, that's the part where you really get to sing and really get to read the lyrics from the song and all that. The really
Yeah.
fun part.
Yeah. So you got a great template, basically, story, theme, and then let's say there's three, I'll call them three questions in the verdict form or three charges, 1, 2, 3, just make it simple. 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of evidence to support your answer on the charge. Fill it out, answer that question, and then et cetera. That's essentially, and then you close with theme, maybe question to defense that they can't answer. It's going to be really difficult for them to answer. And then you save your great stuff for rebuttal. Is that, oh,
Exactly,
yep,
exactly. And I would also say this is like a really like granular point. When you're putting those 3 to 5 pieces of evidence, testimony, if you've got the transcript, that's great. But if you
yep,
don't have the transcript, bullet points work. I like to
mhm,
keep notes on dividers if you have a physical notebook of each witness of colorful language, great cross answers. But then the other thing is when it's a documentary piece of evidence, to have the exhibit number on there. And you
yep,
want to actually read it out and say, this is exhibit number 18 and it's the
yeah.
key email. And so then you see the jurors writing that down if they're able to take notes. And they're going to go back there in the jury because you're not back there with them in the room where everything is really going to happen.
Then let you
And
back in the jury room in Texas.
they don't let you know in the room where it happens. And jurors are nervous from the beginning when they get there,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
you're trying to have empathy for the audience,
yeah,
and the if and you are holding the teacher's guide, like why not
yeah.
give it to them and give them the evidence and
So
the
you're the credible truth teller. That's your role. I'm going to tell you the truth in this case and back it up with evidence, and they're going to trust you. That's you what you want to accomplish in court.
that's it, the
Yeah,
trusted source.
awesome. Direct examination. This is kind of undervalued, I think. Let's give my second chair first trial. Let's give him direct or give her direct, right? It's hard. Talk to me
It's
about
so
direct
hard.
exam.
I thought when I was asked to speak on this, it was an American college event, and I thought, okay, I haven't done a direct in a really long time. And I was thinking, oh, that's because I'm really giving opportunities to the young. And then I realized, no, it is hard as heck. It is really hard. You have to spend to make a good, it's easy to do a bad direct. It's easy to lead them around. It's easy for you to do all the talking. It's really hard to do a good direct. And so I went and I read, and I also went and visited with associates about like um, how to do it right. And there's, you have you have a lot of expectation lying on it. It's your client often, right? And so they want to look good. So everyone thinks that it's easy. Everyone has very high expectations of it. You have this illusion of control around what's happening there. And you have to deal with all those stinking exhibits, right? So you're actually that charge that we were talking about that they told you in law school to do at the beginning. If you have to get in all the evidence, you have to make sure you're getting in all those exhibits that you need to get through them. And so you can't really control it, but you can control a lot of parts about it. And that's what I like to try to think about is what is it that we can do? And the main thing is meet with the client a lot, like meet with the client a lot in short bursts. And if you can keep it to 2 hours max and just do it frequently and get the story down in a way where you can get the key words that you need for that charge, maybe even writing them on that flip chart, because that physicality of doing that or doing a checklist can be really helpful, and just nail down those statements that you need for the charge, but also make them trust and like her. um, him I recently had been a combat veteran in Afghanistan, and he was now in business. And you would think like being a witness on the stand would be the easiest thing ever. The opposite. I started, he was holding on so tight to the jury box. I had to like
This is
move
your client?
my
This is your
client.
client?
My client, he was an executive in my client. And I'm like moving my body all around, like all around the well, so that I can try to get him to start looking at me and stop having a panic attack. And so you never know until you're up there what they're going to do. But trying to make them as comfortable as possible. Sometimes, I mean, in a case like that, you can even ask, like, man, you're a combat veteran, but you look a little nervous.
Yeah.
And then let them sort of
Ask the obvious question, right? They all see he's nervous. Just let's get out here. What's the elephant in the room? You're nervous, aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think there's a lot to think about in terms of outlining what you can do on direct. Like I'm sorry, I'm going to go back on this. We were talking about the evidence and the exhibits. It's really important to have a cheat sheet for objections on those, and just to be ready on what's going to be objectionable, trying to get as much as you can in advance, being empathetic for the listener. They don't like those evidentiary battles. They're very, very boring. And I call it lump and clump. A lot of cases that I work on have really voluminous documents, doing as many summaries as you can possibly get in. I have a favorite saying, one of my favorite sayings from those bosses that I worked for when I first got out of law school, who eventually became my partners. And one of them always said, Karen, you're doing all this work, but really cases are won and lost by words coming out of people's mouths. And he would say it real slow. And what he really meant is whatever we do is all setting up for what those people on the stand are going to do on cross and direct. And, Rusty Harden.
Yeah, of course.
So Rusty had a case in DC. I guess the SEC was prosecuting his client. And he said the government lawyer called him up and he said, Rusty, we've got you dead to rights. We've got the documents just prove this case. And he said, do you have any documents that can get up, swear out an oath, and take the stand?
Yeah.
He's like, if you don't have anybody who can talk about it, it's not going to get you there. But then you have to get into that kind of be in the moment conversational style. And that takes really getting to know the person. And I work with sometimes my clients are real estate bros. Sometimes they are finance bros. They wear little vests. You have to,
they know this more than you do. So please don't tell me about my job here. I get it. I got it. I give presentations, right? You get that a lot.
Oh yeah, exactly. And, and people like me, I'm charming or whatever. And so that takes way longer to build. It's really, truly relationship. And I had one guy tell me, like, why am I meeting with you all these times? Like, he basically was like, I don't even like you. but I think he came to sort of like me, but the question was, he was a plaintiff in a really big lawsuit where he had lost an opportunity. And we couldn't get him to be vulnerable at all. And finally, I worked with a jury consultant who helped me ask this question, which I think is a great question for anything. And that is, where were you? So using a sense of place and so where were you when you found out that what you had built this business on was a lie? And he describes this brick wall that anyone in our area would know where it was, and outside of a FedEx office. And it's just like he could see it, and then you could see it, and then you could see him seeing it.
So he got out of, oh my God, I'm in trial, to putting him in that place so he allow him to tell the story and be comfortable.
Literally the place. And then another thing that happened in that case was there was an email that where he looked less than truthful in the email. And I don't know, most of us have had cases where this happens, right?
It's bad evidence. We all got bad evidence. That's why the case is going to trial.
And you got to inoculate, you've got to
Yeah,
deal. I think you have to deal with that.
100%,
And
100%.
I've heard that the only time that you don't deal with that, and I've heard this from criminal defense lawyer friends, is if they literally can't
There's
say
no answer.
anything. All they
Oh,
can
like
say,
it'll
no,
incriminate
they can
him.
only say like mistakes were made, or I see
Yeah,
that you feel that way. I'm sorry
yeah.
that you feel that way. But for most people, you have to get it out there. And for him, what we did was we put it, you contextualize, put it in the timeline. So in that case, the COVID had just been announced, and here he's in this huge real estate development, and it's like, so we do a timeline, and then you write, when you see that email in the timeline, it doesn't look. I mean, it's not my favorite piece of evidence, but it doesn't. It just
It's
went away.
buried. It's
It's
buried,
buried,
basically.
and we
Yeah,
got
yeah.
to deal with it in advance of the defense dealing with it.
Got it. Well, I gotta move it along here for our listeners. Let's hit the last one, the last topic you want to share. That's love, logistics, and the law. Talk to us about that,
That is
Karen.
such a fun topic. So I thought about this a lot. And it's really like, okay, so that's alliteration, right? But there's more alliteration. It's really about people and priorities. And so the idea is that, you've got these people around you who are helping you. Otherwise, you're not even able to do this job. So somehow or another, you've got people around you that are great people. And so make sure you empathize with that audience as well all the time. They may not be getting all those props back from the jury, or the highs and lows that we get from our job that can be really motivating. But also, my pastor, back when my kids were little, who's now retired but still a very good family friend, he said he and his wife were both pastors. So they met at Princeton Theological Seminary, and so they're both very smart, and they both had the same jobs in different places for a while in their career, and then she went and got a second PhD. But they said, we don't think there's any such thing as balance. We think there's just priorities. And if you think about, like, when you're doing yoga and things, you really look at a point to balance. I think those two things really go, like, what does balance mean? Does it mean that, like, I'm perfectly being, the best mom ever today, and I'm also doing closing argument in a major trial? No, probably not. But does it mean that after that trial, like, I take a special weekend where we do something together? I wish they wanted to do special week. No, sometimes they do want it. They're in college now
Well, as
and
long as you're
and law
paying,
school.
as long as they're paying, they'll go with you. That's been my
Exactly.
experience.
But yeah, so it's like, keep focused on what you need to do, set your priorities. Of course, if a kid gets sick or something like that, then all those other priorities get blown. But it's just like, what is the priority today? And make sure that if you have a life partner, that life partner gets to be in that spotlight at some point, which is really hard when you have kids. So doing that. But the way that we did that, one of the ways that we did that as a family was, we had family meeting, and starting when the kids were really little, and we did it on Sundays at lunch, and we went to this same Mexican restaurant every single Sunday, and we would sit down and call the meeting to order. These are like with a 3-year-old, and say, like, and by the time they were in elementary school, they wanted to add to the agenda. But it's the way that you can kind of save yourself from running out to the hobby store at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday to go get all the parts for that poster board or whatever, or if somebody's going to have a big outing that they want to do as a teenager that might need a conversation as a group, like, you're talking about what the week's going to look like and where everybody's going to be. And part of that is, for you, if you want to be a trial lawyer and you want to be somebody who's developing business as a trial lawyer, is you have to make some time during that week, probably at least once a week, to go be with other lawyers in community. And because for most of us, most of our cases come from other lawyers. And also, I'll tell you, that dark spot where you're doing all discovery and your kids are little, legal community can be the way that you make it through that, and other dark spots will come in your career. And I just kind of, I guess I'm sort of a lawyer nerd, but I find that when I see the people around me and the things that they're doing for the world and for the law, and I get to be part of that group, and that's what keeps me going day to day. And if you don't make time for that, then it's going to be hard to enjoy the practice, and it's also going to be really hard to develop business. So it's not crass. I don't like the word networking, but it's building legal community.
Yeah, no, it's good to be a part of something bigger than you, right? And having a cause to fight for.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you had incredible support from your husband raising kids and getting through now your kids are quote raised. We're basically they have kids the same age, and so they're in college and
Yes.
they're,
And
uh,
they were all in Boston at one point, or
they
two.
were
Yeah.
too, yeah. And but those are tough times when you're a trial lawyer and you get a great partner. You obviously had great support in the office. There's no such thing as a perfectly, people talk about work-life balance. Does that exist?
That's what I'm saying is it's priorities. I really
Yeah,
don't think that, and that's why family meeting is so nice, because you sit there and you discuss those priorities out loud with the
right.
other people in the
She'll
room.
say, "Hey, I got a huge dep in wherever, New York, Wednesday and Thursday." And, "Oh, Mom, I got a science project due Wednesday." And so then you got to figure out how this is going to get done, right?
Right. And maybe it's Sunday right now, so maybe we can go to the hobby store on the way home
There you
instead of
go.
waiting till
Right.
Tuesday night. And
On the way to
the
the airport. Yeah.
and also maybe that way I can help pitch in, and Brian's not stuck 100%. Brian, who's also, by the way, a very great lawyer, but a different kind of lawyer. But he's not stuck doing it all night. If you give it a little runway, you're able to
Yeah. Plan
help
it out.
a little more. And then maybe you can also say, so let's do date night Saturday night when we get back. That would be, I'm not saying I did that all the time, but it would
It's
be
a
nice.
goal. It's a goal. We
A goal.
aspire.
Aspirational. Aspirational.
The half hour flew by. I knew it would. Do you have any final words that you want to share with our listeners, younger trial lawyers trying to make their way in this beautiful profession that we're in?
Just like keep if you want to be a trial lawyer, there's a way to do it. So if you think that you need to go on kind of a mommy track or something like that, wonder if this year you could just maybe not be the superstar this one year and keep and there's nothing wrong with going on the mommy track, but if you want to be a trial lawyer, maybe you could just not be a superstar for one year, and you could prioritize your health and your relationship with your baby and your spouse or partner, and then you don't have to be perfect all the time. You can, and you won't be, if you're going to do it, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be kind of messy,
Gonna be messy, gonna be
but it's
real,
worth it.
but it's
It's worth
worth
it.
it. 100%. Karen Burgess, thanks for being a guest on Verdict Academy. I just had the best time.
Thanks for being my friend, Kevin Morrison.
Back at you.
Thank you for listening to Verdict Academy. If today's insights resonated with you, please subscribe and share with colleagues. In a world where we see each other less, learning from experienced trial lawyers matters now more than ever. Join us next time. Produced and powered by Law Pods.